Next up, let's talk about data management. What is data management? Data management in science refers to practices that ensure all data produced by or related to a process of scientific inquiry is recorded completely and accurately in a repository that is accessible. How does data management relate to ethical scientific communication? Responsible data management enables the reproducibility of science. It also establishes the rigorousness of scientific evidence, since data management allows us to provide receipts of our claims. Without effective data management, the scientific process breaks down. Data management also ensures accessibility. No data is privileged or obscured. Responsible data management sets a fair playing field for open scientific discourse. When we talk about responsible data management, what types of data are we referring to? Responsible data management is only effective if we apply these practices to all types of data that are produced during the scientific process. This data includes record keeping from the lab, detailed documentation of how, when, and/or where an experiment is performed, including specifics on materials used and procedures followed. Commonly, this type of documentation happens in lab notebooks. Raw data, output that is produced directly from an experiment. This data includes qualitative observations, quantitative data that is electronically or manually recorded, or images and audio. This type of data has not been processed or reformatted beyond basic edits or labeling to make it legible and processable. Process data. Data or figures produced from raw data, generally through synthesizing or analyzing the raw data. This is generally the form of data that gets published or is shared to communicate the results of an experiment. What are some common issues that arise with respect to data management? Generally, scientists do a good job ensuring the accuracy, completeness, and accessibility of their process data, since this is the data that is most commonly shared and published. Most issues in data management arise in raw data and lab records. Often these types of data are not kept up to date, are inaccessible, are incomplete, or are not kept in their original form. This is a serious issue because issues with raw data and lab records travel downstream and manifest in inconsistencies and inaccuracies in our process data, the data we eventually share and make claims on. Let's take a look at some best practices to see how we can prevent these types of problems. Data management best practices. First, experimental design. When designing an experiment, consider how and when you will collect data to ensure you are not biasing your data. Next, keep relevant metadata. When saving raw data, make sure this also includes relevant metadata. For example, when the data was collected or on what instrument. Consider automating where possible. Next, keep copy of original data. Save a separate copy of your data before performing any analysis on it. Next, establish a lab-wide system for data management. Establish a system in your lab for data management that includes a central repository for lab notebooks and records and an integrated process for backing up raw and processed data. Finally, treat lab records as public documents. Treat lab notebooks and lab records as public documents, that is, aim to write notes with a public audience in mind. Often, lab notebooks are in fact property of the lab or funding agency and not the individual. On the next few slides, you will be presented with case studies regarding data handling to start thinking about what we've discussed today about data management. Read through each scenario and respond to the questions presented on the slide.